The room was heavy with grief as I stood by my father's coffin, mourning his death. My husband, Mark, gave a slow, smug smile. "I've transferred $15 million of Morgan Dynamics stocks into my name," he said. Shocked, I replied, "You can't do that." He sneered, "Stop me if you can." When I tried to protest, he grabbed the candle holder from the table and struck me hard on the head. "Hello, my name is Sarah Morgan, and I'm 31 years old. My life took a dramatic turn just a few weeks ago when I lost my father, Henry Morgan, the man who built Morgan Dynamics, a company specializing in electric vehicle components. His sudden death left a void I could hardly comprehend, both in my life and in the company he cherished. Today was the day of his funeral. Standing in the church, surrounded by mourners, I struggled to focus on their words of comfort. The loss felt insurmountable, and the thought of stepping into my father's role as the head of a $120 million empire weighed heavily on my heart. As I stood near the altar, greeting guests, I noticed my husband, Mark, lingering at the back of the room. His expression wasn't one of mourning or support. It was something else entirely. A faint smirk played on his lips, sending a chill through me. The ceremony ended, and the crowd began to disperse. I couldn't shake the unease Mark's demeanor stirred within me. When he finally approached, his words were sharp, cutting through my grief like a blade. "Sarah, I hope you're ready for the real world now. Your little fairy tale is over," he said with a mocking edge to his voice. I frowned, trying to process his words. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice heavy with confusion. Mark leaned in, lowering his voice. "While you've been busy crying over your daddy, I've been handling business. Thanks to some clever paperwork, $15 million worth of Morgan Dynamics stocks are now in my name. That company isn't just yours anymore, it's mine too." I froze, the weight of his revelation sinking in. "What? Those stocks belong to the company, to my family. How could you do this?" Mark smirked, his tone dripping with condescension. "It's already done. You won't be able to stop me, and trust me, you don't have the guts to fight me on this." Fury boiled within me, overtaking my grief. "This is fraud," I said firmly. "I'll expose you for this." Mark's smirk faded, replaced by a cold glare. "You really think you can stop me?" he said, stepping closer, his tone darkened. "Don't make me regret everything I've done for you." I stared him down, refusing to back away. "This isn't over, Mark." The battle for my father's legacy had just begun. The tension in the air was suffocating as Mark's words echoed in my mind. I could barely believe what he had just confessed. He had stolen $15 million worth of Morgan Dynamics stocks. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound I had ever known. "Mark," I said through gritted teeth, my voice trembling with rage, "you can't just steal from me, from my family. This is illegal. Fraud." He laughed, a cold, mocking sound that sent chills down my spine. "Oh, Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're so naive. You think this world runs on fairness? It's all about power. And right now, I have it. You can cry to your lawyers or the police, but it won't change a thing." Anger surged through me, momentarily pushing aside my grief. "You don't get to do this, Mark. I'll fight you with everything I have." His smirk twisted into a scowl, and he stepped closer, towering over me. "Fight me? Don't make me laugh. You're nothing without your daddy. All you've ever had is handed to you." I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, Mark's expression shifted. It wasn't just disdain anymore, it was fury. He turned, grabbed a heavy candle holder from a nearby table, and before I could react, swung it at me. The cold metal struck the side of my head, and pain exploded through my skull. My vision blurred, and I stumbled back, clutching the side of my face as warm blood seeped through my fingers. Mark's face was devoid of remorse as he loomed over me. "You should have stayed out of this," he hissed. Then, without another word, he stormed out, leaving me crumpled on the floor. The room spun as I struggled to stay conscious. My father's funeral, the betrayal, and now this, all of it blurred into one chaotic nightmare. I thought of my father, his strength, and his legacy. I couldn't let Mark destroy it. As darkness closed in, a single promise burned in my mind. I will fight back. I will take back what is mine. When I woke, the sterile white ceiling of a hospital greeted me. The pain in my head was unbearable, but it couldn't compare to the fire of determination now burning in my chest. Mark had made a mistake. He underestimated me. I woke in a hospital bed, my head throbbing and my vision slightly blurred. The sterile smell of disinfectant filled the air as a nurse adjusted the IV by my side. "You're lucky," she said softly, concern evident in her voice. "The blow could have been much worse. You've got a concussion, but you'll recover." I nodded weakly, the events of the day crashing over me like a wave. My father's funeral, Mark's betrayal, the attack. Anger flared within me, stronger than the pain. A police officer entered the room shortly after. "Miss Morgan, we need your statement," he said, his voice professional but kind. Taking a deep breath, I recounted everything. Mark's confession about the stolen stocks, his threats, and the violent assault. My hands trembled as I spoke, but I forced myself to stay calm. This was the first step in holding him accountable. Once the officer left, I called Lisa, my attorney. "Lisa," I said, my voice firm despite the pain. "Mark assaulted me and stole $15 million worth of company stocks. I want him held accountable for everything. Fraud, assault, all of it." Lisa was silent for a moment before responding, her voice steady and determined. "We'll take him down, Sarah. This won't be easy, but I'll make sure justice is served." The following days were a blur of legal meetings and hospital recovery. Lisa wasted no time gathering evidence and building our case. She hired a forensic accountant to trace the stolen money and uncover Mark's fraudulent activities. As I reviewed documents and recounted details for the case, my anger fueled me. I couldn't afford to let Mark's betrayal paralyze me. My father's legacy and my future depended on my resolve. The board of Morgan Dynamics quickly rallied behind me. They were appalled by Mark's actions and vowed to support me in reclaiming the stolen stocks. Their loyalty bolstered my confidence, reminding me of the strength my father had instilled in the company. Despite Mark's attempts to evade justice, the authorities tracked him down. Lisa called me with the update. "They found him, Sarah," she said. "He's been hiding at a motel outside Cleveland. The police are preparing to make the arrest." Relief coursed through me. Mark could run, but he couldn't hide from the consequences of his actions. This fight wasn't over yet, but for the first time, I felt hope. The arrest of Mark felt like the first real victory in this nightmare. Hearing Lisa's voice over the phone saying, "He's in custody," gave me the resolve to see this through to the end. But the fight was far from over. Lisa and her team wasted no time assembling evidence to strengthen our case. The forensic accountant dug deep into Mark's fraudulent transactions. Every transfer, forged document, and diversion of funds painted a clear picture of his betrayal. The $15 million stock transfer wasn't just theft, it was calculated, deliberate fraud. Lisa walked me through every piece of evidence. "These documents prove the stocks were transferred using your forged signature," she said, pointing to a chart. "And here's the trail of diverted funds. It's airtight, Sarah." Despite the pain and exhaustion, I immersed myself in the details. I knew Mark's defense would try to discredit me, and I needed to be ready. At the same time, the board of Morgan Dynamics stood firmly behind me. They were horrified by Mark's actions and united in reclaiming the stolen assets. "Your father trusted you to lead this company, Sarah," one board member told me. "We're with you." Their support wasn't just encouraging, it was empowering. My father's legacy wasn't just about the money or the stocks. It was about the trust and loyalty he had cultivated. Meanwhile, Mark's arrogance was catching up to him. His attempts to stall proceedings and manipulate evidence failed miserably. Lisa's legal team was relentless, countering his every move. In a meeting with Lisa, I asked, "What are his chances of avoiding prison?" She shook her head confidently. "None. The evidence is overwhelming. Fraud and assault charges carry serious consequences. The judge won't look kindly on his actions." Mark's arrest had frozen his accounts, limiting his ability to hire top-tier lawyers. With every step, it became clear that his downfall was imminent. As the trial date approached, Lisa and I worked tirelessly to finalize our case. Each document, each testimony, and each piece of forensic evidence would ensure that justice was served. This fight wasn't just about reclaiming the stolen money or stocks. It was about proving to myself and everyone else that I was capable of protecting my father's legacy. Mark had underestimated me. That was his first and biggest mistake. The courtroom battle loomed ahead, and I was ready. The courtroom was packed with spectators and reporters as Mark's trial began. I sat at the plaintiff's table beside Lisa, nerves and determination swirling within me. This was the moment we had worked so hard for, the moment justice would be served. The prosecution started by laying out the facts. The defendant, Mark Taylor, orchestrated a fraudulent transfer of $15 million worth of Morgan Dynamics stocks and committed aggravated assault against Sarah Morgan, the prosecutor stated firmly. The evidence spoke louder than any words. The forged documents, meticulously traced by the forensic accountant, were displayed on a projector. The prosecutor explained how Mark used these to steal the stocks, forging my signature and falsifying company records. Next, the forensic accountant testified. The defendant diverted funds using offshore accounts to conceal the theft. These transactions directly tie him to the $15 million in stolen assets, he explained, pointing to detailed financial charts. Mark's lawyer tried to shift blame, suggesting the transactions were a misunderstanding. The courtroom stirred with disbelief, and Lisa swiftly countered, presenting emails and financial records proving Mark's intent. Then it was my turn to take the stand. I recounted the events of the day, the betrayal at my father's funeral, the threats, and the assault. He struck me with a candle holder after I confronted him about the fraud. I said, my voice steady despite the painful memories. Mark glared at me from across the room, but I refused to let his intimidation affect me. I held my head high, knowing the truth was on my side. The defense's attempts to undermine my testimony faltered against the overwhelming evidence. Witnesses from Morgan Dynamics, including board members, corroborated my statements, describing how Mark manipulated the system for his personal gain. The jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning with a verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge delivered the sentence with finality. Mark Taylor, for the crimes of fraud and aggravated assault, you are sentenced to 5 years in prison. Additionally, you are ordered to pay $15 million in restitution to Morgan Dynamics. Relief washed over me as Mark was led away in handcuffs. Justice had prevailed, and the weight of his betrayal finally began to lift. As I left the courtroom, I felt a renewed sense of strength. My father's legacy was safe, and I had proven to myself that I was capable of fighting for what was right. The courtroom victory marked the end of Mark's betrayal, but the journey to rebuild my life and Morgan Dynamics was just beginning. As I stood in my office, overlooking the New York skyline, I felt the weight of the past months slowly lift. The $15 million worth of stolen stocks had been returned to the company, and I worked closely with the board to strengthen its foundation. Together, we implemented policies to prevent any future vulnerabilities. The unwavering loyalty of the board members and employees reminded me that my father's legacy wasn't just about financial success. It was about the trust he had cultivated among those who believed in him. Every day brought its challenges, but each step forward renewed my confidence. I spent countless hours at Morgan Dynamics, meeting with teams, reviewing strategies, and ensuring we honored my father's vision. His office remained untouched, a quiet reminder of his guiding presence. Outside of work, I began to focus on myself. The scars Mark left, both physical and emotional, didn't fade easily, but I refused to let them define me. Therapy sessions helped me process the trauma, and the support of close friends and family kept me grounded. One evening, as I sifted through old photos in my father's study, I came across a handwritten note tucked inside a book. It read, "Sarah, you're stronger than you think. Trust yourself." Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pride and determination. I carried those words with me as I continued to lead Morgan Dynamics. The company thrived under my leadership, expanding its reach and reinforcing its reputation as a pioneer in electric vehicle components. Mark's absence became a footnote in my life. The prison sentence he received ensured he wouldn't harm anyone else for a long time. The restitution order guaranteed that his fraudulent actions wouldn't leave a lasting mark on the company. Months after the trial, I stood in the same office where my father had built his dreams. The city lights twinkled below, a symbol of endless possibilities. I had faced betrayal, loss, and fear, but I emerged stronger. This wasn't just about securing a legacy. It was about creating my own. With a deep breath, I turned back to my desk, ready to embrace the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video. It really helps us grow. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another gripping story. Your support means the world to us.